It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Life is a highway, and on it there will be many chicken sandwiches. But there's only one McCrispy. So go ahead and hit the turn signal if you know about this juicy gem of a detour.
After the end of a good fight, you deserve an ice-cold reward. Modelo, you put in the hours, the energy, the tough labor. Because you know the bigger the fight, the better the reward. Modelo, the mark of the fighter. Drink responsibly. Beer imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. On the Monday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, it's time to take apart these Toronto Maple Leafs piece by piece. We're taking a look at the fantasy fallout for yet another Game 7 implosion in Toronto. Thank you for joining us.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Round 2 of the NHL is about to pop off, and that's why you're tuned right back into your daily source for fantasy hockey. It's a Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele and Flip. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. We are here Monday through Friday, free and available everywhere you find your favorite content. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Game off. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go, the fast-paced game that lets you team up with your friends, play tournaments to unlock awesome prizes, unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis to taunt your friends. Download Monopoly Go now for free in Google Play or the App Store. Steele, there's no more joking around, okay? Look. Let's get it out of the way. The Toronto Maple Leafs cannot get it done. This roster, there's changes coming. There's changes coming for this entire team. We'll talk a little bit about what we saw in Game 7, and then we have a top 5 list. We're breaking it down, 5 through 1, what this Toronto Maple Leafs team needs. And yeah, we're going to stay very focused on Toronto today, but there's also a ton of fantasy angles here that Steele and I will be discussing, and that's why you're tapped in. Tomorrow, we're breaking down round 2 previews, baby. Eastern Conference style, so make sure you're tapped into that. Steele, over to you as always, brother. Look, Game 7s, right? They're tight. We know all the narratives. We know all the storylines. The bottom line is the Leafs did not get it done again. You score 1 goal in Game 7. I don't even know where you want to go with this, Steele, because there's a lot of things to be discussed. The power play doesn't get it done again. Joseph Woll is hurt. They have to go to Sammy. I think he was actually quite good. I don't know where you want to take this, but go right ahead. The bottom line is this team is not good enough.
Not good enough. And in the offseason, there will definitely be some changes, and we'll talk about our top 5 changes in the offseason later in the episode. But let's talk about Game 7 and what we saw from the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I don't want to make excuses off the top because there are no excuses. This is a series where they could have won, but when you have William Nylander miss the first 3 games because of migraine, you have Matthews out games 5 and 6 for illnesses. Like you said the other day, this team wasn't fully healthy throughout the entire series, and that does play a little bit of a part into it. But that's not what the case is here. They got outworked in Game 7, or not outworked. Yeah. They played a really good Game 7, but it's just the same old story. It's the same old story with this team. They go down 3-1. They battle. They get to a Game 7, and they lose in overtime in that fashion. And you sent me that clip over on messages, and I didn't even see that during the play. I just saw.
Oh, you mean of Mitch?
Yeah, of Mitch. I didn't even see that he was that guy lacking and gliding. And so there's going to be a lot of changes in the offseason, but I thought they played a really good Game 7. Both teams played a really good Game 7. The physicality was up. The chances were there. Yep. The goaltenders were stealing the show on both sides. Yes. I thought for the most part that the Maple Leafs played a really, really solid defensive game. A lot of the shots were just straightforward, where Ilya Samsonov could see the puck with his 2 eyes. It was going straight in the breadbasket. They did a really good job of protecting him in front of the crease and really just letting him see the puck when they shot the puck on net. So overall, good Game 7 from both teams. But the Boston Bruins once again prevail. They come up on top and they go into round 2 with the Florida Panthers awaiting them now.
The better team advances, Steele. We're not here this isn't the tier show, as much as I very much would like to shed a few, because this is just, let me bring this up for you. 7 straight winner-take-all losses for Toronto, dating back to 2013, 5-4 in OT to Boston, 7-4 to Boston, 5-1 to Boston, 3-0 to Columbus, 3-1 to Montreal, 2-1 to Tampa Bay, and then 2-1 to Boston. If that's not the most excruciating 7 games of how to lose one ever, and of course it's our team. So it's just more fun for us as Leafs fans, but fantasy-wise, Steele, we're going to talk about some of those angles right around the break. I just want to leave it at this for this game, if you're okay, because I actually agree with you completely. I think Samsonov played a really solid game. And I actually think the Boston Bruins are kind of lucky to escape with that game. And I'm not here to say, like, look, I'm trying to give all the credit in the world to Boston. They had 13 giveaways. 13. The Maple Leafs had 1. They did not capitalize on their chances. I'm not saying this is one of those cases like they beat themselves or something. The Boston Bruins won. That play in overtime, that was a set play. It was gorgeous. Executed perfectly, passed the steps up. The better team wins. They got lucky in that one, Steele. The Leafers could have had it. Yeah, they blow a lead. All the same narratives. It all comes down to
100%.
But the fact remains, the Boston Bruins should be sitting there going, we're going to have to tighten it up, because the Florida Panthers already have this team's number. We remember what happened last year. Carter Verhaeghe's Game 7 legend. So if I'm the Boston Bruins, I'm thinking we got to tighten it up. Why don't we do the same? I'll hit you with my 5th thing on the list. Okay, go ahead. We're heated already, but go ahead.
We're heated. I got some still things. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the top 5 in the second segment, but there's a lot more from Game 7 from this Maple Leafs team. You know,
it's true.
One of the biggest things, again, that we probably all know at this point, but 12 goals in a 7-game series is not good enough.
No,
that is not good enough. They only scored 12 goals, and
1 power play goal.
Even from the Boston Bruins side of things, their offense started lacking after Game 4. Really, they were They were struggling to get the offense going. This was a really good series for goaltending after Game 1. So a lot goes to Jeremy Swayman, Joseph Woll, and Ilya Samsonov. I thought all 3 goaltenders played a really good first round series. But when Austin Matthews is your point leader, where he only played 5 games and has 4 points, that's wrong right there. And William Nylander playing 4 games and being your goal leader with 3 goals, that's a problem. So they have the players in place to really go deep, but when it comes time to perform, they're not performing. That's number 1. Number 2 is, again, just watching what I saw and what to your point right now, they could have won this game, but just like they do every single time they get a lead, that was a great play, great luck on the Maple Leafs point of side where I believe it was Carlo tripping in the corner. Matthews gets or Bertuzzi, Domi gets the puck past to Matthews. Great feed over to Nylander. You go up 1-0 with under 10 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, it was about 10.
And then just like they do in incredible Leafs fashion, they start getting lazy. They start getting complacent. They stop moving their feet, and they get lazy in their own defensive zone. And they let the team come back not even a minute later to tie up the game. They had that barn silenced, and you took your foot off the gas. They had that 1-0 lead, and I could not believe that. I was screaming at my TV saying how lazy they were. For a minute straight, I was saying how lazy they were, and then a goal happened. So they could have let that one. They could have kept that 1-0 lead and just kind of kept on dragging it out to the final minutes of the first, but no, incredible Leaf fashion. They let the Boston Bruins tie it up a minute after.
Yes, sir. And that ties into 2 of my points on our top 5 list, Steele. Yeah. It actually goes, there's a lot of blame to be placed around. And unfortunately, this isn't one of those scenarios where it's back in 2019 and you have this really great vibe around Willie and Mitch and the core and the young guys. And, maybe we're just like a step or 2 away, or maybe a piece or a tweak. They aren't a piece or a tweak away. They're not a step away. This is going to have to be a change up and down the board here, which we'll talk about right after the break, because back in 2019, maybe there wasn't so much blame to go around and it's not as negative. But right now, Steele, that's far too much losing in any pro sports. It doesn't matter in Europe, anywhere. Brendan Shanahan has now been at the reins of this franchise for 10 years, and they haven't gotten anything done anywhere else, Steele. He gone. So let's talk about that right after the break. Shout out to everyone holding us down. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. Drop us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time, or your money back. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge W's. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
What's up, guys? Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils here, and let me tell you about Discover Credit Customer Service. Looking for an assist with your credit card but can't get a hold of anyone? Luckily, with 24/7 US-based live customer service from Discover, everyone has the option to talk to a real person anytime, day or night. Yep, you heard that right. You can talk to a real human in customer service anytime. Sounds like a real game changer if you ask me. Make the right call and get the service you deserve with Discover. Limitations apply. See terms at discover.com/credit-card.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Are you still watching on Fox Sports or ESPN, though? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Our team, Flip, continues to disappoint us, and we have had enough. We're fed up with this absolute BS-ness of what's going on in the organization. We need to see some changes. Leafs Nation needs to see some changes for the better. That's why we're going to do our top 5 changes in Toronto in this offseason coming up. And I'll throw it over to you, man. What do you have at number 5? What is your list looking like? I feel like we'll have at least a couple of on here, but
agreed. I think we're going to definitely cover some of the same points, so I think we're going to be great on time for today. Number 5, Steele, and this is a good one for fantasy angles, because the Toronto Maple Leafs do have some interesting younger pieces that I think deserve a lot more of a look. So number 5 is give the kids a shot. We all know that this roster is going to get shaken up. How that happens, I don't know, but I think the Simon Benoit's of the world, Benoit was really good in this series, in my opinion. I think Connor Dewar should stick around. I like what I saw from, in the regular season, the Bobby McCanns of the world. And then I'm looking even younger. Fraser Minton and Easton Cowan. Easton Cowan just set the record or something. He had like a 45-game point streak in the O, and he was the league MVP this year. He's a really good young prospect, and I don't know. I'm seeing young kids all over the league getting looks. Benson in Buffalo is a great example. Throw the kids a look. Give these kids a real good chance. I know Minton had a break out of camp, but really they didn't give him a look. This might go along, Steele, with some of the other changes that are going to come. But number 5 for me is give the kids a chance. And that goes to Joseph Woll as well. Although, fantasy-wise, as a guy who owns Joseph Woll in my keeper dynasty, it's starting to look like a little bit Joseph Woll might be a serious injury risk if you're talking about drafting goaltenders.
Yeah, seems to get, just a little bit of, definitely an injury risk. We'll leave it at that. But hey, well, hopefully he's going to be fully healthy and he's going to be the number 1 goaltender heading into next season.
You like my take, though, on give the kids a chance, or what do you think?
Yeah, because I was even going to say, even at the time, a lot of people did not like the Easton Cowan drafting from the Toronto Maple Leafs, which was very shocking in my opinion, but he absolutely killed
Matty Nyes, too, obviously. Let
Matty
these
Nyes
guys really sink in as leaders. That's what I'm
100%. So I like that at number 5. Give the kids a chance who are really dominating in the O, in the farm teams right now, and even the Matthew Nyes, the Connor Dewars right now, who are playing really solid for the Toronto Maple Leafs. My number 5 is, and I know he's still under 1 year, he's got 1 more year left, but my number 5 is re-sign Jake McCabe and re-sign Max Domi. Those are that comes in at number 5 for me. Max Domi, even though it hasn't been his best career of his or best season of his career, he had 48 points in the regular season.
No, I love those
points. He had 4 points in the first round series against the Boston Bruins. And again, after game one, he was spectacular out there. He wasn't taking selfish penalties. He wasn't doing too much. He wasn't doing too much to get him into a very dangerous situation, but he was under Brad Marchand's skin. He was in the battle. He was playing great. The second half of the season with Austin Matthews on that top line. So re-sign Max Domi. He wants to be in Toronto, and Jake McCabe as well. Jake McCabe said last year, or heading into this postseason, that he didn't feel comfortable in last year's playoffs. That was his first year in the postseason, and being traded from Chicago to Toronto, he was nervous. He was skeptical about what the future held for him. And after that first year being in the postseason last year, he was used to it. He's used to that mentality. He's used to that atmosphere and that gamemanship. And I thought he played a spectacular first round series as well. So that's my number 5 is re-sign Jake McCabe and Max Domi.
Well, that's going to probably translate right into number 4 for me. And this one might be a lot easier said than done because blue liners don't come around very often. It's hard to acquire those cornerstone blue line pieces. But number 4 for me is invest in the blue line. Take a look around at some of the recent Stanley Cup champions and the teams that go on deep runs, aka the current reigning champs in the Vegas Golden Knights. Look at that blue line. You need to have some big bruising. Like they have Pietrangelo, Hannafin, McNabb. I know I'm forgetting Theodore. Most teams don't have 2 of those guys, and they have 4. And I know, again, much easier said than done, but this team needs to invest in the blue line. That's how you win in today's NHL. They tried it the other way. They tried to load up on superstars. That didn't work up front. And I'm not here to everyone's talking about the angle of the Toronto Maple Leafs didn't score enough. We know this. I'm not going down that path anymore. They weren't good enough. They were the second highest scoring team in the regular season, and they didn't get it done. Anyway, invest in the blue line is number 4. So I like the McCabe signing steal. It goes right in that same vein. Maybe you even bring Edmondson back. I don't know. But I'm saying they need to go out there and make a splash. Either a big, top prospect, you move up in the draft. I don't know how it gets done, but they need to really invest in that blue line. That's number 4 for me.
Investing in the blue line, obviously moving forward, it's going to be Morgan Riley still. It's going to be Simon Benoit. It's going to be Jake
Riley's
McCabe,
under contract till 2029 at a very fair, I think, 7.5, by the way.
We know he's going to be there. So those 3 guys, Simon Benoit, Jake McCabe, Morgan Riley, you got to fill in the other positions. Maybe Liljegren really takes a huge step forward next year. I don't know, but
you got that Cade Weber kid, that huge kid from the NCAA. I don't know. Maybe they give him a look.
They need to invest in the blue line. So completely agree there. They got to make some changes there. Number 4 is I think they got to make a change with leadership. And my number 4 is strip John Tavares of being the captain. I love him as a player.
Number 3 on my list.
I don't think he's getting enough credit for what he's done in the postseason. I thought he played a lot better than people are giving him credit for.
I agree.
He worked hard in the corners. I think he battled hard. He was one of the leaders this entire series of winning those battles in the corners and doing those little dirty things that they needed him to do. I just don't know if he's the voice that the Toronto Maple Leafs need right now. I don't know if he's got that personality to get them fired up. Again, I don't know what goes on in the dressing room. For what I see, what I see on the bench, what I see during the game, and what I see during post-game interviews or first intermission interviews, he doesn't seem to have that persona. He doesn't seem to have that personality, and that seems to be a huge factor. I think Morgan Riley would be a great captain to really get. I believe you've said this before too. Morgan Riley potentially being the captain. I would even love giving it to Austin Matthews at this point if he really wants it. Those would be my top 2, but me, number 4 is strip John Tavares of being the captain because I think they need a new voice and a new leader. And a lot of people can be leaders without having that captaincy on there.
Yes,
but I think Morgan Riley is the cut favorite for me.
Wholeheartedly agree with everything you said, except, and not to disagree, I would give it to Poppy. This is Poppy's team. It should be Austin Matthews wearing the C. And I am not here. I'm with you so wholeheartedly on this take steal because John Tavares doesn't need to be a loud vocal guy to be a leader, right? It doesn't have to be, but it might seem like this team kind of needs it, right? We've tried the quiet approach. I'm not trying to chirp his leadership style or him at all because you know how I feel about John Tavares.
Great player.
He is a point per game player his entire career.
Yeah.
In 669 games for the Islanders, 621 points. For 440 games with the Leafs, 420 points. He's almost gotten better in the second half of his career in terms of production. Say what you will about his ability to lead this team. We just need to do something different, Steele. This is a top 5 changes list.
All it is.
And it's not about stripping him. He remains an assistant, most definitely. This isn't like, I remember a couple of years ago, the Jets didn't get it done and they stripped Blake Wheeler. That was a different situation.
Yeah, that was weird.
And they gave it to Scheifele. Anyway, or whoever got it. Sorry. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but
Lowry.
It has to happen. Changes all need to be made, and this is one of those internal ones. Like, you're not bringing in new pieces. I don't know where he goes because I believe he's still under contract for
1 more year.
So $1
million.
Bring him back at a team friendly like $4 million or something like that. I don't know. So that was number 3 on my list. So we just got that one out of the way. Why don't you take us to break and we'll finish up with your top 3 and my top 2.
Sounds great. We're going to finish up with this top 5 changes in Toronto for the offseason. But first, this episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard. It's not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most richest and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress with your friends. And there's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. And you can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb that leaderboard. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play.
Life is a highway, and on it there will be many chicken sandwiches. But there's only one McCrispy. So go ahead and hit the turn signal if you know about this juicy gem of a detour.
Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. Flip, my number 3 on this top 5 list goes exactly what you said, I believe, which was your number 5 or number 4. It was one of them, but it was your number 4. Gotta restructure the blue line. My number 3 is let TJ Brody, Klingberg, and I threw this player in, Ilya Samsonov walk. All of them are going to be UFAs. You got to let them walk. You got to clear up that cap space. And I'm not putting blame on Ilya Samsonov because I thought he played great after coming, after the season he had of going down to play with the Toronto Marlies, losing his confidence, coming back up and playing spectacular. I thought he played great in this first round series, but obviously besides game 1, but that was a team effort.
He was pretty good. Yeah.
He was very good. This was a very low scoring series between the Bruins and Leafs, but let TJ Brody walk. He's been a liability in the defensive zone. He gives the puck up too many times. He's also at $5 million right now. He's going to become a UFA. Let him walk. Sure. Same goes for John Klingberg. Did not work. His career might even be over at this point. And again, Ilya Samsonov was not the problem, but he's not a true number 1 goaltender who's going to take you the distance. And right now, like you said, if Joseph Woll, with all that, little bit of injury risk that we're starting to see a little bit, they really have to invest with the blue line, but not just the blue line. They need to invest in the crease as well. Sure.
And that, again, so much easier said than done. I think every single team in the league would want to say they want to tweak their goaltending in their blue line. But this is like almost critical needs here, right? And
100%.
When you're looking at a fantasy angle coming into this season, Samsonov was, definitely a valuable piece, thinking that he's going to get a lion's share of the starts on a team in the regular season, at least, that's going to get a lot of wins. Say what you will about his statistics, but he was a guy in the fantasy realm that was definitely going to get some mid to late round looks. Now I wouldn't be touching Samsonov with a 10-foot pole. He's a backup goaltender, Steele. Can he steal you some wins? Can he step in there and be a capable NHL goaltender? Sure. He's not the guy to carry you. He's proven it. He was in the AHL midpoint in this season and on waivers. And then he has to step in game 7. A lot of things didn't go right for this Toronto Maple Leafs team, but a lot of that has to do with the coaching and the front office, in my opinion. I mentioned Brendan Shanahan. Number 2 on my list, Steele. They got a clean house behind the bench and up in the front office. The new president and CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, Keefe, is now running the show. You know, it was Lewitsky, or I forget his name, the old guy who was running it, that signed Ujiri and Shanahan.
Yeah.
That he's going to be looking at this team with a very fine lens, Steele. And in my opinion, look, I like Sheldon Keefe as a coach. I respect Brendan Shanahan as a guy who's won cups. He's been in the playoffs. He's a Warrior. They know a lot more about hockey than I do. Let's get that out of the way. That's clear. But they just, again, haven't gotten it done, Steele. It's too many chances. It's too much losing. It's enough. And somebody has to be responsible for it. And there's one other name on this list that's right at the top that also I'm going to hold responsible in a hot minute. But it's got to be, Keefe's got to go, unfortunately. And I think right after that, you clean house up top, put some fresh blood in there. I don't know who. Let's start looking at things a little differently. Let's start developing players differently. And let's shake up this entire franchise, Steele, because the winds of change, they be a blowing this summer.
Coaching staff and front office is my number 1. And it literally says here, coaching staff plus Kyle Shanahan, Shanahan gets fired. Yeah. Gets fired. And they need to clean house up front in the front office and behind the bench. I don't understand how the Maple Leafs have the number 1 best power play come, in middle of February or the entire month of February, and then just completely fall off
Guy
a
Boucher,
cliff
double
from
agent.
March. Yeah, double agent Guy Boucher. March, April, and into the playoffs. They were dead last or second last, right there above the LA Kings at, what was it, 5% power play. They were 1 for 22 or something like that. Absolutely useless in the post. You cannot do that against the Boston Bruins team. You can't do that against any team in the postseason. So that's number 1, is the coaching staff needs to change. And I also like Sheldon Keefe. However, I did not like his comments after the game about, teams prepare themselves to let the Leafs make their own mistakes. Like I should have written down that quote. I didn't like it at all. I did not like that quote from Sheldon Keefe. It's your job to change that narrative. It's your players' jobs to go, execute that, but it's your job to get them in the right mindset and change that narrative as this organization's coach. He didn't do that, even though he has been really successful in the regular season. You got to change the coaching staff. You got to get rid of Shanahan. Needs to change. My number 2, which maybe this is your number 1, but Mitch Marner needs to get traded. Mitch Marner needs to get traded. By far, the biggest liability, the biggest laziness player I've seen when it comes to crunch time.
Yeah.
Every single game, you could probably pick 5, 6, 7 different plays where he wasn't even trying, where he didn't even look like he cared about winning a Stanley Cup. And he just clearly seems to be in it for the money, in my opinion. And there's a lot of teams out there who have the salary cap, who have the cap space to take on this player. And in the same point with you and I saying that they need to restructure the crease, they need to restructure the blue line. You do that by trading
going on still.
You do that by trading a $10.9 million player where you can potentially get a couple of draft picks, but you get some defensemen who are NHL ready and need, big bruisers. You maybe again trade somebody to fix the goaltending, but you fix it that way by you clearing cap space at $10.9 million. You can potentially get draft picks. You can potentially get a number 1 starting goaltender, or you can get a bunch of decent blue liners that could be used on the Toronto Maple Leafs blue line right now. So that would be number 2 for me, and I guess that's number 1 for you.
It is, and again, look, Mitch Marner, fantasy-wise, regular season, he's an absolute stud. Like, my goodness, like, I can't believe we actually have to have this conversation considering how good they are in the regular season, and him most especially. Willie stepped up. Matthews won them game 2. He was sick and hurt. Look, they need to play better too. I'm pointing the finger everywhere, but in terms of how you move forward, you kind of like what you saw from Willie. You like what you saw from Poppy, obviously, when he's healthy and going. Can he round it out a little bit more in the playoffs? Sure, okay, but not by much. You look at Mitch, on that last play of the game. I'm not going to say he cost them the game because I don't think that's fair. Look that up. He's dogging it in game 7, not even looking around. Like, it's one thing if you're not skating because you're pooched. He's kind of like looking around and like slash somebody, do something, hit somebody, do anything. He's doing nothing. And by the way, before we wrap this up, Steele and I will be here the rest of the week to talk about everything else in the NHL and our previews and predictions for round 2. And then this summer, we're ratcheting it up, the breakdowns, the previews, and all of your fantasy draft preparations. See, I can't believe we're already talking about that again, but we're here all summer long, baby. And the Toronto Maple Leafs will be doing a lot of golfing all summer long. And let me finish it with this.
Will.
The quote from Sheldon Keefe, which is basically, I think, him sticking a fork in himself, saying he's done. Quote, when teams play the Maple Leafs, they set up the game for the Leafs to beat themselves.
Yes.
That sounds like he's already cooked. So no offense to Sheldon Keefe. I think he'll be back in the NHL at some point in some capacity soon, maybe as an assistant first. I don't know. He is a good coach. He's just not the guy to get it done for this team. Time to move on. Sorry, Brendan Shanahan. I loved you as a Detroit Red Wing. You're a nasty playoff performer. You're cooked too, bud. And it's time for changes. Those were our top 5. Steele, I'm hyped for the rest of the week, though.
Hype for the rest of the week. Tomorrow's episode will be the breakdown of the Eastern Conference semifinal matchups, Hurricanes, Rangers, Bruins, Panthers. We're going to break down the Western Conference semifinal matchups on the next episode after that. So make sure staying tuned all throughout the week. X Factors, predictions, best bets. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Once again, make sure you go check out Locked On Sports Day's YouTube channel. Subscribe to them. You can also find it on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Once again, bringing you the top stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with your bets tonight, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.
Life is a highway, and on it there will be many chicken sandwiches. But there's only one McCrispy. So go ahead and hit the turn signal if you know about this juicy gem of a detour.
Welcome to another round of Boardroom or Miro Board. Today we talk retrospectives with Agile coach Maria. Let's go. First question. You've spent 2 hours in a team retro, but the only input you've heard is Dave's. Boardroom or Miro Board?
Boardroom. In Miro, Dave can't hog the space because everyone can add thoughts anonymously, online at the same time.
Correct. Next. You need the team to act on feedback fast, so you turn all those retro notes into Jira tasks instantly.
Miro all the way. And I can assign those tasks to teammates.
You're nailing this. Now, you see hundreds of sticky notes from the retro. A real mess. But you organize them into 5 themes in just seconds.
Miro, I basically get back an entire hour when I use its AI tools for clustering.
And she's done it.
Join over 60 million people running actually enjoyable and actionable retros in Miro. Get your first 3 boards free at Miro.com. That's Miro.com.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing. But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.